Studio 6 and building surveying applications. Some of you know each other quite well, some of you probably don't. You are all undertaking the same task. This is effectively your studio, your applications task, your entire project for this semester. And quite frighteningly, when I look around the room, I realise quite how many 20-minute audio-visual presentations I've got to set in a certain time frame.
You want to get 10 minutes?
No, I don't.
I like your attempt at negotiating.
However, I can fast forward some students. Okay. The lady who is going to present to you today is Adele Brooks. Adele is a project manager who is employed by the university. She's actually part of the university's facilities management department, but she works in the guise of project manager. She's already presented to a number of you within the management course, within the management box, particular to Stockwell Street and project management. She's going to talk to you about Stockwell Street and the entirety of the project today. She has your assignment brief. However, in this instance, she is not your client. She's providing you with information as background. This is your scenario. This is the live project. The lady that's speaking to you, presenting to you in about 4 weeks' time, Laura, she is also an FM employee. Rarely do your paths cross, I understand. Laura, in this instance, is your client. She will be giving you and delivering the FM brief. So Adele is not delivering the brief, she is simply giving you background information. What she is very much not going to do is she is not going to answer the scenario questions for you. So you can ask as many questions as you like, but she has been very specifically briefed not to deliver those answers. That's for you to work out. I need to advise you, Adele is alumni. Some of you know what that means. It means she is an ex-student of this university. She is an ex-FM master's student from this university. We're not worthy, she has a distinction. So you are very privileged to have Adele presenting to you today. Stockwell Street is absolutely fascinating. It's on our doorstep, it's real, it's alive. That's why we're using it this term. Without further ado, Adele.
Oh, thanks, Christine.
I'm just going to grab my bits off you.
Yeah, if I turn the front lights off in the shoot, was that going to affect?
Yeah, it's fine.
My project assistant puts the slides together, likes to get quite creative. So yeah, hence the kind of non-architectural layout of it. But I'll give you a bit of an overview of who I am as well. I've been working now for the University of Greenwich for 5 years. I came on board to run this project. Whilst running this project, we have obtained another project. So purely my role in the university is capital development manager. I build all the new stuff, pretty much. We also are now building a new student halls, which you'll know is at Greenwich train station, and that's due to open at the same time. This building will open in September this year. So it's a big year for us this year. My background, I am an architect by trade, not the enemy, trust me. I went through university in Australia, as you can probably tell with my accent. I graduated to my Part 3 in Australia, and I'm a fully qualified architect. I practiced for 5 years here for Conrad and Partners, an architectural firm in central London, and did major housing developments and the conversions of old breweries into 25, 35 million pound schemes per building, with about 7 buildings on the site. So my background is large scale capital developments. This job, well, I'm sure you probably have an understanding of it and how it all comes together, but 5 years ago the University of Greenwich decided to undertake a £76 million investment for its students, which is you guys. And outside of moving the University of Greenwich from all of the number of campuses, because it was originally a polytechnic combined into a university in the early 90s, and they had a whole group of different campuses, of which they slowly sold off, put the money in a pot, and knew that they wanted to invest and consolidate into central Greenwich, albeit it took 10 years to get there. This piece of land came up in 2009 when the market crashed, Always a good opportunity for someone like a university who has money sitting in the bank, and they purchased this piece of land from an American group at an absolute steal. So thus became the commencement of the project. Roughly about £10 million for a piece of land in central Greenwich, in a World Heritage Site. So there was 0.65 hectares. So we then started working on the brief. So the Facilities Management Department, who you know and you'll learn more about as you go along, put together, my boss in the department is the head of estates and he is also an architect. So he put together a brief and put it through to the Court of Governors, of which they approved and decided to move forward with a very big investment. The idea in the brief from the outset was that the School of Architecture never had a central London location, of which you are combined in that. So the School of Architecture and Construction were to have a central London location, and it was to be on this site, of which we realised, of course, it was too big for us from the outset. So then there was what else could we conglomerate from the university that needed also a central London location. And the result is that the library will move from Dreadnought into a new section of the building, which I'll describe to you more in the instance. So this commenced in 2009, and the course was always to achieve a result for September 2014. And I say that now, we are on track, we as a university are on time, albeit the contractor is not, and we are still on budget. And if any of you know the Scottish Parliament, stay tuned. You know, these kind of things are very easy to get scope creep and wage hugely out of control. And I'm very, very pleased to say that at this point in time, while I'm standing in front of you, which is very good because it's on camera, we are on time and on budget as a university, and we absolutely fully intend to put you in there in September 2014.
Who's the contractor?
Contractor is Osborne Construction.
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So, in terms of the kind of overview of where we are at the moment in consolidation, the university, you know the three buildings that we've always had, the old Royal Melbourne College. We have expanded just recently. I leased a building for the business school because they wanted a front of house building when I arrived in 2009, and this is Hamilton House. So this is the business school's kind of front of house where they run their courses and things like that. Stockwell Street, as you can see, is in the centre. We've got where your Cooper's building, the student union is, and Devonport House, where some student accommodation is at the moment. There's the halls of residence there, the Cuddy Sark halls, and we've got the Dreadnought and the Stephen Lawrence in this sort of location here. You can see the new halls are down the bottom here, for those of you back, just down by the Greenwich train station. There are 358 new student flats to the tune of about £45 million, but it's not a lease agreement, it's a design and build contract. We take it from Cathedral Group and then you kind of get what you're given. I must say we have made some major improvements to what the signed contract was, but you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles really. The most important thing that you should possibly know in your career is what your contract is, how you sign up to it and how you can manage it, because that will be the beginning of the end of all the decisions that you're able to make and your negotiating skills. So, site history. I'll give you a quick overview. This is kind of where we'll just talk to you about this element at the moment. The site history is quite extensive. It was originally an urban block that ran the whole way around here. And then in World War II, the V2 bomb hit here, and it pretty much demolished the entire front corner of the site. Everything just got piled into a hole. They asphalted it over and built a petrol station on it in the 1960s, along with the first council building for the Royal Borough of Greenwich now. Then they built John Humphrey's house. So that's this huge, big concrete building here. I must say, it was about 5 metres thick, deep concrete, just for one wall in the basement, because I think they housed the first computer in that building, of which they then thought it had to be completely blast-proof. So that was great fun getting that out. The railway line then sliced the site in two, and this is important because of a number of things. One, Network Rail are adjacent to your building and very challenging to manage throughout the entire process. And two, it actually defines the character of the building and how we've come about seeing that facade as a cut or a slice. So the aspiration of the university when 2009 rolled on and we decided we knew we were going to have School of Architecture, we also decided there was going to be dance and drama moving into the building, there was going to be the library. we started developing the brief and moving forward. The aspiration was that the architects would be world-renowned and it would be a high-class, world-famous building. So that the intention was not to sign us up to a design and build contract from the outset. The intention was always to be able to manage the university's contract through this process, of which they then needed someone to do it, which is where I came in. So they set out a series of achievable targets from the outset. The building we knew was going to be over 15,000 square metres, therefore needed Greater London Authority approval. It was in a commercial area, it is also in a residential area with grade 1 and 2 listed buildings to the rear of the site, which is all of this area here. Which also then gives you a sense of scale, and I'll describe the drawing of the building as we go through. You get a commercial building of which we want to be seen to be an academic institution, but you have residential buildings to the rear of your site. So actually you've got quite a disparate situation where you want to be academic and austere on the front, but then you have to appease the neighbours at the rear. So you can't be too much of a big, huge, blocky building. 20% renewables are required for any site in the Greater London Authority over 15,000 square metres, and I'll touch on that in a minute. It is a listed building site, surrounded by listed buildings. It is in a World Heritage area. It is a UNESCO World Heritage site. Across the road where Cafe Rouge is not a World Heritage site, and where we are, it is. So that was just our luck. So I'm pretty sure that there is no site that I have ever worked on that has this many considerable tangents that you have to be dealing with at one point in time, let's say. Still not much. Yes, we have achieved BREEAM Excellent Design Stage.
Pound for pound, has that got any value at all apart from the ticking boxes?
I don't know if you heard it, has BREEAM, pound for pound, got any value at all? Scott, you and I know we've had this debate, and I would say in terms of the construction industry, BREEAM is absolutely essential in making the rest of the construction industry lift its game. For us as an institution and a higher education institution especially, it's just standard for us to build BREEAM excellent buildings. That's what we do as higher education institutions. Why? We should be academic about our buildings. I should be saying to you, be academic about how you think about things, how you negotiate, how you move your contracts forward. So therefore, if we're doing a building, we should be academic about it. So BREEAM for us isn't a challenge. Yes, it was a tick box exercise to some extent. And in other instances, it did push the bar on a whole number of things, but we did plenty more than that. We did the first climate change study ever to exist in the United Kingdom and won a BREEAM Innovation Credit for it. We predicted how the building would perform in 2020, 2040 and 2080, and we pushed ourselves. So we pushed above BREEAM, and if you have the ability to do that, I would absolutely encourage you to do so. But of course, you need to understand the parameters of your contract, you need to fit it within the timescale and the program of your building, and you need to ensure that it doesn't involve scope creep. And if it does involve scope creep, that you're able to manage that. So as a basis, BREEAM is excellent. And yes, for the design and build up the road in Daniel Defoe Halls, where I showed you, BREEAM Excellent is an absolute essential because that contractor is engaged in a completely different role and will just get away with the easiest solution possible. So you wouldn't even meet the environmental standards. So BREEAM for that building sets a bar that they have to achieve, and it does lift their game. For us, it was always the norm, and we were going to push beyond it. And there's two different examples for you in completely two different realms. So yeah, it is a tick box exercise to some extent, but also it's absolutely essential to lift the entire construction industry. And I think we should be pushing it. So people like ourselves should be pushing BREEAM to do better and be harder.
The only reason I ask is because you can achieve what BREEAM is supposedly looking to achieve without doing the tick box exercise, because if you don't start doing the tick box exercise from the very beginning, no matter how well performing your building is, you don't get the excellent. And
that makes your contractor think about it from day one because it's a legal requirement. So your planning laws stipulate you must achieve BREEAM Excellent. Guess what the contractor does on day one? They're already thinking about how they can achieve all those credits because it's their legal requirement. Now without that, they would dumb down the specification, I can assure you. So, and it just depends on, and it's not necessarily the contractor's fault, it's the contract you engage them within. So, just to give you an overview, we ended up with these spaces in the building. We have lecture theatres, seminar rooms, exhibition spaces, the architectural studio, the construction area is absolutely phenomenal. A cafe, retail space, there's an art shop coming from up the road who's a local furniture provider to fit into they're expanding their business into our building. The library, of course, and some digital spaces, TV studios, editing suites, a sound recording studio, animation suites, and a photography studio. The floor area is about 15,500, I believe. The construction cost is 43 million. Construction period 26 months. Yeah, well, don't hold me to that. 26 months to the date completion of the contract, which was the 14th of January. Yes, that has passed. There was an extension of time submitted from the contractor on the 20th of December. They're leaving a little late. They, and I'll put this on record, they claimed for 27 weeks. At this point in time, we are 22 weeks behind. They claimed for 27 weeks, and they were given 4 weeks and 2 days. Why? Project management. At the moment we have about 200 people on site. There are about 30 packages of provisional sums, and I would say 3 main contractors that make up the £43 million. So there's about 3 main packages of about 10 million each. The concrete frame, the actual facades, and then you've got the M&E services, and then the rest of the building is the sundries and all of the other elements that come together. So actually Osborne are only managing their 3 main subcontractors with the facade, the stone cladding that was included in that, and the concrete frame, which is off-site now because that's complete, and the services, and then the rest of it is made up with bits and pieces here and there. And then there's just some actual quantification there for you. I can give Christine a copy of these slides if you want as well. So this is where we sit as a university. It's important to show you this structure. One, because actually it's similar to the contract. If you need anything done, changed, included, you want scope creep, what's the process that you follow, how is the building managed, all of this needs to be clearly defined for you to achieve a successful outcome. So we have the Board of Governors who signed off the actual project from the outset. We then have a steering group to which the current Vice-Chancellor is the head of, and then all of the former deans now, whatever they are, including faculty operating officers. Welcome to the world of the project. Last 5 years, political change will happen in any job that you are involved in. And again, it's about how you take it on board, manage it, and make sure that your project doesn't actually lose out because of it. So the steering group consists of the head of IT, all of those that actually have their teams involved in the building. This is where I sit. We have user groups in the university, so we have an audiovisual team to which deliver audiovisual here, but also we'll be delivering it in the building. But of course, a contractor for the university will do that, but they're my consultants essentially, and I suppose they're my clients. You know, the AV team who deliver audiovisual in all your classrooms here will be delivering it in the Stockport Street building, because that's what I want to do. We don't want the same old stuff, we want to push the boundaries. So guess who starts having to educate the university staff about what we want in a new building and push them as well, and that's what we do. So we have CMS, Humanities, have TV studios, so we've developed and designed the TV studios with them for the last 5 years. We're also fitting out the TV studios, and we're pushing the bar to make sure that they're the best TV studios that are possible and available on the market when they open. Of course within the program and within the budget that we're given. Very, very much a challenge. But equally, for the current university audiovisual team, you could just pick up the solution that you have in this room and place it in the new building. But then what's the point? You know, what's the point in pushing the bar higher and pushing harder for a better solution? So that's what we're doing the whole way through this job.
How do you get them to buy in?
A lot of work, negotiation, and a lot of time and effort.
So before we start the construction process, or?
Yeah, so he just asked me how I get these user groups to buy in. So these user groups are the School of Architecture Dean, Neil Spiller. He sits in, he understands what we're doing, how we're doing, and why we're doing it. The studio space will say to me, we need movable tables, they need to be on wheels, this needs to happen, we need pin-up boards. Okay, that's fine. What do the construction school need? How do they work? Staff offices, how do you get a group of 40 to 50 staff members who currently have individual offices into an open plan space and get them to agree to it? How do you do it? Good luck with that one. Yeah, it starts out like that. But guess who's the enemy from day one? Yeah. And guess how do you get them to sign off on it?
Offer them a carrot.
You alright?
Offer them a carrot of some description.
Yeah, negotiation. So you discuss, you debate. You're getting a new building, this is a new ethos, this is a new era. Yes, you're currently fitting in individual offices. Guess what you've got in your current individual office? You will have one crate worth of equipment in this building, and that's what you'll be moving over. Oh, but I've got books, I've got this. Yes, we'll have book space. Oh, I need to lock them away, I don't want my academic friends touching my books. You know, all of this, how do you develop this so that it works for everybody? And you continually negotiate. Lots of meetings, lots of time, lots of effort, and lots of carrots.
On your extension of time, because that's quite important to our assignment, to make sure that that extension of time doesn't run over and go past. What was the exact reason that was needed?
I have a
Or
50-page
what would it
report.
anyway?
I have a 50-page report that goes to our steering group. And at the end of the day, the contractor is entitled to claim an extension time for whatever they feel.
Maybe
Is-
for weather and things like that. So.
No, weather was written out of the contract.
Okay.
Weather was definitely not included in it. If you put weather in the contract, the first windy day you get, everyone will down tools. You write weather out of every contract you do in your life going forward, I assure you.
What contract was it?
It's a traditional JCT amended. So, I mean, they're entitled to pay for whatever they feel that is fair and justified.
What I wanted to know is what they had paid for, because our project is that it will be finished on time and the logistics of moving.
Yeah?
So if we don't know what they've claimed for, that claim could then get extended further.
It won't. You put your, so the process of a claim is, if you're running it in the correct process at any point in time during a contract, as soon as you feel that there is a delay of any situation, you state your claim, the clause of the contract, the legal position that you're in, and you write a formal letter to the contract administrator, and you state how long you think you're delayed and why, right?
Yeah.
If you do not do that at that point in time, then, and it depends on how you see your contract evolving, whether you feel that you can get it, you are on time and you are on program as the contractor or the building surveyor. If they don't do that and you end up in this, look, you know, we're all right, we'll get it back, we'll pull it back, it's fine, okay? So you continually negotiate the whole way through as the client with your contractor, because the contract administrator wears a hat that sits in between you both. I'm not able to influence him, and nor is the contractor. And if the contractor hasn't staked their claim the whole way through, then they have one big claim to stake at the very end, right? And they have to then justify it. It is the contract administrator who decides on what their claim is valid. So for instance, we knew going into last year that I felt we needed to give the contractor a couple of weeks here or there. There was 17% more reinforcing in the building than we had initially anticipated from the outset, because it was based on a provisional sum. So we knew roughly where the drawings were in terms of the structural engineers, their bending schedules, and what came out of that in terms of the second structural engineer checking meant that there was more reinforcing. So, you know, tying reinforcing on site is quite time consuming. So this was one of their claims, and this is a valid and justified claim because there was an additional amount to what we'd agreed in the contract, and therefore there was time given to them to allocate that. And so that would be one of the claims, for example. And that is one that they had justified and moved forward, which we knew we were giving them, because you're clear of the black and white situation, and if you keep on top of it, you know where you are. Others, such as, you know, the contractor not potentially managing their program well enough, or actually, oh, we didn't get sign-off for that in time, or we didn't do that, but actually they weren't forthcoming, and the sign-off was something that they changed as a contractor design portion. Good luck getting time for stuff like that. So there's got to be a little bit of leeway, and you'll know as you develop through your contract stage, you'll know where you might have taken a little bit longer to make a decision, and where they might have taken a little bit longer to make a
They
decision.
claimed 22 weeks, you said.
They claimed 27.
27, you did 4.
4 weeks and 2 days. And I didn't give it, the contract administrator did.
That's game adjudication.
Absolutely not. No way. The last position you ever want to be in is a legal battle. Absolutely.
You've got Osborne aren't going to roll over, are
We have a very good relationship with Osborne.
they? Yeah.
No, you're not asking them to roll over. It's the contract administrator who decides what's fair and even. true to type, any contractor will overstate their
Yeah,
claim.
of course.
Of course, that's going to be paid back. What we've had the whole way through
Yeah,
this
but that's,
process.
it's not like a couple of weeks difference, it's usually 23 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not going to swallow it, they're going to argue back, aren't they? Because they've got to have LDs otherwise, aren't they?
Yeah,
And
true.
that'll wipe out the profit margin completely for 23 weeks.
I can tell you right now, there is nothing in my position that I think they will be getting that claim that they've asked for. And why? Because we're sitting in the seat that I can't foresee it. I've tracked it the whole way through the job for the last 2 years. I can tell you where we've done a few swings, where there might be a roundabout, and they will probably try and continue to claim. Because that's the nature of the industry, and of course they have to show their own company that they're attempting to mitigate their loss. But actually, at the end of the day, we have not delivered anything that wasn't on time. And that's pretty tough given that you're dealing with a bunch of academics to make decisions. So guess what we did? We planned well in advance. And not that academics aren't good at making decisions, but in terms of a construction program, there's no scale that you have to make them understand that if you don't make this decision by today, the contractor could claim by next week that they are in delay. So we just kept tight to the nail the whole way through.
Did you say the contract sum hasn't changed since day one?
No, the contract sum will change because variations will have been
It has,
issued.
yeah, so it has,
Yeah, the contract sum will swing around about what we are within budget.
are you in budget?
So bottom line is the scoring going to be ready on time?
Where'd you get that from? Bottom line, the contract was due for completion on the 14th of January. Add on 22 weeks from that, where do you end up? Mid-July. Right? The building is open in September. What do you mean it's not ready?
So was that always your backup plan, to get it done in January and then you knew September would be moving in, yeah?
Bang on.
Just go back to the music.
Yeah.
They're fully signed up to everything, or have you still got loads to do yet? Have you finalised?
Oh, you mean fully signed up? No, these user groups evolve as you go through a project of 5 years. People leave the university, new people arrive, political change happens, the Vice Chancellor swaps over. You have to make sure that there is a continual feed to ensuring that they feel engaged, that they are engaged, and that you're involving them in the decision-making process, and that you're sticking to your program.
I think you're just in the migration because I've had many user groups and you keep selling, but when it comes down to it, everything that was agreed goes out the window and you start doing that just as you start migrating.
Do you write minutes?
Yes. And
Do you track things? Do you have your own program?
Yes, we do all that.
That's how you
This was
keep
more
them
to do
tight.
with education. I mean, I don't do education anymore. But in education, there's maybe slightly separation that doesn't exist here, where you've got the school, then you've got the LA, and therefore there is that gap. Well, maybe this doesn't exist here. I'm just wondering whether.
No, these are your academics that are in my user group. So if you treat them as such, so effectively, I work for the university, but they're my clients, and I treat them as my clients, and I ask them questions as my clients. I give them programs as my clients. I give them deliverables. I give them dates, and we keep them running around as my clients, so that they're continually engaged and that they understand what my project team need to be getting out of them. So the architect will say, Adele, I need to know how much dado trunking, what the width of the dado trunking in the TV studios is, and I need to know what colour it will be. And my policy with this project team is you are able, if you feel, you're welcome to email me, but you're also welcome to copy my user group in, because then there's no he said, she said, but they then feel involved and they get to directly talk to the architects, directly talk to the structural engineers, directly talk, albeit in a structured manner so that we're not wasting any of their time and their fees don't go up.
So the user groups are all employees of the university?
Yeah.
No outside parties?
No, because the outside parties then come under here.
Yeah.
And if the
But
user
they're the
group,
end user, they're the user group where you're end
Yeah.
user, yeah?
yeah, for the last 5 years, the same people in the TV studios, Val Brown, she's a lecturer here. She's designed and developed the TV studio spaces with ourselves and our project team. So when you turn around and you realise that this building actually has come together because the staff and students have continued to input into it. So we've used the student union as a voice the whole way through, so that each year you get a new president, Yeah, each year you go over and you make sure that they understand what you're involved with, how much they want to be involved, how little they want to be involved. But they always have the overriding CEO, which is Jenny Greenfield, and she will manage the process and assist you in that. So there's a continuity in there. So yeah, these guys are essential in making the building that we open in September, and I'll reiterate that just for you, successful. So this side of things as well, our FM is a user group, yeah? So we have our own central services facilities managers. So there's a group of us that work for central services, and then each individual campus has their own campus manager conglomerate. So you'll meet Laura, who is the Deputy Campus Manager of the Greenwich campus, but there is the same position here at Avery Hill, there is the same position at Medway. And those of us that are centrally located, like myself as a Capital Development Manager, work across all 3 campuses and all our new sites. We also have a Building Surveyor, an M&E Manager, who is centrally located, and they both input into this building. So our Building Surveyor at the moment is already working out how the external facades will be cleaned on what annual basis, on what rotation, so that when the O&M manuals are uploaded online, he's already got access to them, he's been trained in them. We had a training session last year. So do you see, this is over a year in advance, so that when the building opens up and rolls on, it will be what we call the soft landing, which is part of the BISRA framework, and that's the guidelines we're following to make sure that this is ideally not a crash landing, a soft landing. Right, I'll push on. So, yeah, so I think I've given you a bit of an overview of project management goals and objectives, but these are absolute essentials in any project management situation for you to understand the project brief and client, or clients, or multiple clients, because actually everyone will sit at that table with a different need and a different aspiration. Be clear and stick true to your objectives. Building will evolve, there will be scope creep, but how you manage it and how you tie it back into one of the objectives is absolutely essential. Establish the feasibility of delivering the brief and the objectives. So actually, you are making sure that the brief is original, your objectives are there, and as they move and political change may happen above you, below you, alongside you, around you, that they are clear to everybody outside your circle, that this is what you're trying to achieve and how you're going to be channeling. And then you just have to deliver it, yeah? Easy. So, I've given you some key tasks for a project manager. I mean, this is stuff that I've already explained to you. You mentioned how do you get them to sign off. You obtain their approval at key stages in the project. So you have a structure in place that everyone is familiar with. You all know the REBA guidelines and the REBA stages project. It used to be A's to J's, and now it's 1, 2, 3, yeah? Use a structure. Don't reinvent the wheel in any position that you're in. Use already the frameworks that are in place for you. So that's exactly what we did. We used the REBA guideline stages, and at stage B, those user groups signed off their elements of stage B, and we moved forward to stage C. We developed the key points in stage C, of which they were made aware of at the beginning. Of course, being a university, we did allow them to be working full-time at the same point in time, so we allowed a lot more time and stretch, which was fantastic.
What was the period design?
I'll come on to it actually. The period design was quite different. So I explained to you that it was a 2-stage construction process. Because of the World Heritage Site location, we spent a year in planning negotiations. But whilst we were in planning negotiations, we were visiting all of the consultants, constituents and stakeholders in and around Greenwich, in and around central London, to try and get the building to a point where they were happy with its development, what it looked like, and how it would sit on the World Heritage Site. So originally, we started off with a much bigger building, much taller at the street front, and because of negotiations and consultation with neighbours and you name it, it shrunk a little bit in size, so we took some stuff out of it. And the facades were developed, and this was also a continual negotiation. So rather than do what some developers may do, which is completely fine, but a different aspect, they will put outline planning permission in, get outline planning permission, and then develop the design from there to suit that outline planning permission. We went to planning once. We didn't do an outline planning permission. We started and worked towards getting a detail and a level of information about the building in the building that we felt would get it through planning in the first instance. And we were successful, fantastically. Otherwise, it wouldn't be open in September 2014 because we would have redone the whole situation. We also looked at other precedences. So the Greenwich Hospital we're trying to get a development through where a hotel would be built